Breaking news as Donald Trump releases his new plan for the Gaza Strip and American relations with Israel.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
All right, so that's the clip. I guess this plan was really only known by Trump because when questioned about it afterwards, Marco Rubio, he didn't know about it. Pete Hegseth, he didn't know about it. It took them both by surprise. And you would think, of the cabinet members, they would probably be some of the ones that would like to know.
Susie Wiles had a look on her face, the chief of staff, like she didn't know about it either. She looked at him like, what the hell is going on?
Oh, yeah. And and some people speculate looking at Bibi that perhaps even he did not know. And I can't quite tell, there's this whole pseudoscience of body language and, taking someone's expression and extrapolating it into, oh, they must be thinking this. I don't know. I mean, it's
Who's
possible that, yeah, who's to say? With all that being said, I guess I'll just start off. I mean, I think it's a terrible. You know what? Before I give my opinion on it, do I think Trump is 100% serious? And, there's a spectrum. Some people say, yes, he's 100% serious and it's a plan that's been in the works. I have mixed feelings. I'm thinking perhaps there's a 20 to 30% chance he's serious. 70 to 80% of me is like, well, if this isn't just some bizarre apprentice, art of the deal level, like negotiating tactic where he just throws out some insane offer, which I guess is comparable to, an extreme lowball, perhaps, in some ways. If this isn't just some kind of business world tactic put into the realm of foreign policy, I would be surprised. I mean, because in my reason for thinking this, I mean, he didn't let any. It doesn't appear that he let anyone else know of what he was going to say behind that podium. And I would assume, even with as erratic or eccentric, I guess, that as Trump is, that if this were truly a serious plan, that surely other people would know about it other than him. But what are your thoughts? Why, before we give our opinion on the plan itself, do you think Trump is serious or not serious?
Dude, I've seen Trump do this too many times. This is you. I mean, you said it best whenever you said an art of the deal, business type negotiation tactic. Like he's 100%. Like if you think that the United States is going to end up owning a portion of Gaza, I just don't know what to tell you. Number one, his cabinet members won't go for this. I mean, he's surrounded himself with hardcore Zionists who, according to them, that land belongs to the nation of Israel. So the idea that they're not, even if Trump was serious, the idea that they wouldn't undermine this, make it a total shit show, make him spend political capital just so that way he could make enough of a mess and be like, all right, fuck it. I don't want to deal with this mess anymore. I'm just going to give it to Israel anyway. Like, I guess my point is that like even if Trump is serious, there's no way that they're going to allow him to have it. The people around him are definitely going to push him to let Benjamin Netanyahu annex it, which is I think ultimately what's going to happen. If I was betting,
That would be
but
my bet as well.
there is a clip, and I'm going to play the clip right after this. But there is a clip that Trump is committed to this plan.
I'm committed to buying and owning Gaza. As far as us rebuilding it, we may give it to other states in the Middle East to build sections of it. Other people may do it through our auspices. But we're committed to owning it, taking it, and making sure that Hamas doesn't move back. There's nothing to move back into. The place is a demolition site. It'll be, the remainder will be demolished. Everything's demolished. I mean, you can't live in those buildings right now. They're very unsafe. But we'll make it into a very good site for future.
I think we need to reiterate what the President of the United States just said, and you said it, but it bears repeating. He just said that it will be United States policy to forcibly displace 2 million Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. That is ethnic cleansing by another name. He said the United States would then own the Gaza Strip and that we would develop the Gaza Strip and that other countries would take these Palestinians. He says he's talked to a lot of people and they think it's a great idea. Well, we know that just a few weeks ago, the Arab countries, key Arab countries, had an emergency meeting and responded forcefully against this idea and said it was unacceptable. So what the president is doing here is really throwing a match on an already very volatile region.
Yeah, he says that he's committed to this plan, and it's in the same clip where he said that there's no right to return for the Palestinians that leave.
Beautiful communities for the 1.9 million people. We'll build beautiful communities, safe communities. Could be 5, 6, could be 2, but we'll build safe communities a little bit away from where they are, where all of this danger is. In the meantime, I would own this. Think of it as a real estate development for the future. It would be a beautiful piece of land.
Would the Palestinians have the right to return?
Spent. No, they wouldn't, because they're going to have much better housing, much better. In other words, I'm talking about building a permanent place for them. Because if they have to return now, it'll be years before you could ever. It's not habitable. It will be years before it could happen. I'm talking about starting to build, and I think I could make a deal with Jordan. I think I could make a deal with Egypt. We give them billions and billions of dollars a year.
Yeah, I don't know if this is something that he's dead set on, but for sure he's going to use this as a negotiation tool with Israel. And I'm not sure to what end. Like what is he going to ask of them to give? This is the part I guess I don't understand. But I guess let me ask you this: assuming that he was serious, would you be okay with U.S. rule of Gaza?
No, I think it's a uniquely bad idea.
Yeah, me too. Me fucking too.
Well, I mean, I guess I can go into why it's just terrible before I even, go into what, charities I might give this plan. But, well, for one thing, for his own sake, why would he put U.S. troops on the ground where inevitably some Hamas soldier or Islamic Jihad member will, snipe them from the debris of a demolished building? The potential casualties of American soldiers would be so high.
Darren, he's not. Didn't you listen to him? He's not going to put U.S. troops on the ground. They're not going to be necessary. My
So
God,
true.
you're not.
So true. You're right.
You're not even
You're right.
paying
Shame
fucking
on
attention,
me.
man. You're not even
Shame
paying
on
attention.
Me. But not only that, I mean, if we were to really clean out the place of these Palestinians and then, I guess, foist them upon the Egyptians and the Jordanians, which seem to be the people that Trump wants to send them to the most, I mean, that would be, I mean, that's just such a non-starter for these states. And, we bribe these states into being buddy-buddy with Israel by giving them, billions a year. Egypt is the country with the second largest foreign aid received from the U.S. per year. And that's really just bribe money to get along with Israel. I mean, there's no amount of money that we could give them where they would absorb however many, like a million Palestinians each. I don't know. I mean, for one thing, their populations, which are more radical than the leaders of the government themselves, would see them as, in some ways complicit in the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. If they took these people in, it would mess up their legitimacy. And these states have had issues with Palestinians in the past. I mean,
Right.
Jordan in particular. I mean, I forget what year it was, but it was one of their kings, King Abdullah, was assassinated by a follower of that Mufti I mentioned earlier
Mm-hmm.
in the podcast, Hajj al Husseini. Quite a bit, and Egypt actually has a kind of a storied history with the Palestinian population that they have absorbed in the past. So neither of these states is too keen on taking more of these people, who would certainly be destabilizing and who would also be demographically just incredibly. It would change things quite a bit because these states don't have huge populations. Egypt's a little bit larger, but Jordan is not a particularly populous state. So I mean, to thrust like a million or however many Palestinians into there would be just so straining on their resources. It's just a non-starter for all of these
Yeah,
states.
it's as much of a non-starter as if they wanted to ship them, north and become Israeli citizens. Like
Oh yeah.
it's just not going to happen for the same, well, I shouldn't say for the same reason, for the same distaste. They will not, because to the Arab League and the surrounding nations, it's basically like you're ethnically cleansing the Palestinians about what is the most important to them, which is their land, you know?
Oh yeah.
Um, and not just that, I think it would cause a unique amount of problems. Like the Arab League would have a problem with it for obvious reasons, because they're going to have to be the ones to take in these people who have been exiled. And then, the axis of resistance with Iran and Iraq, and they're not going to like any of this. And then, I mean, what the fuck is Europe going to do? Or China, or, I mean, they're not going to have like action against the United States, right? But they will look at this like, ooh, they are complete. I mean, you've already seen messages from France, Germany, and Ireland, and everywhere being like, yeah, this is a horrible idea, and we do not condone it. You know?
Oh yeah. I mean, how much political capital is Trump willing to expend just to serve Israel's interests? I mean, truly, and this is, you know,
Perhaps.
I didn't I didn't vote for either in this past election, as you know. But my thoughts going into it were that, as far as bad outcomes could go, I thought, there's a chance it gets a little worse, but that it doesn't get. I never fathomed this. This never crossed my mind as a possibility. I, from, I mean, this is just insane. I can't believe this is even being discussed.
Yeah, it permanently would set issues for us in the Middle East going forward. And God knows how much we're going to have to spend just to secure it.
Oh yeah.
Forget about exiling them. Forget about cleaning up the rubble. Forget about, and however, if we started tomorrow, it would take anywhere from 5 to 15 years just to get rid of the rubble. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're not building in the next decade. You know, you're not even starting like his little, hotel casino shit for during his term. Like this is all ridiculous. And the fact that it's being taken seriously, I think it just shows that, a lack of critical thinking on people. The fact that people are, I mean, think about it for 2 fucking seconds. And obviously, this is a bad idea.
I have my fantasy set of, events that could transpire, that could set everything right, which are never going to happen. But this is something I have been thinking of, though. And don't get me wrong, I think for U.S. interests, this is one of the worst things we could ever do.
Okay.
And I'm primarily concerned, with the U.S. interests because I try to look at things through a amoral lens sometimes when it comes to foreign policy to an extent. But looking at the humanity side of it, I will say if I'm being totally, totally charitable and generous to Trump's bizarre plan he's drawn up, wouldn't in some ways just forcing them to leave be better than restarting the hostilities and just letting this conflict wage on? Because it feels like if the ceasefire does not hold, which I don't think it will, it feels like this is just going to happen again. And so we're going to see however many 100,000 more people dead. And it's kind of like you were saying earlier in the podcast. It's like, there are a lot of hardliners, and for good reason, because I mean, I've met people, my great grandma, I mean, she passed in 2019, but she was over 20 years older than the state of Israel. So, I mean, the memories of all these people are very fresh. So it's totally understandable to be a hardliner and want to stay and want to have it all back. But at some point, well, Israel isn't going anywhere. So are we just going to let these people? I mean, in some ways, in some ways, even though it would be terrible for us, from a humanitarian perspective, it almost seems like the best out of a series of bad options to just be like, you people just got to leave. Because if you stay, Netanyahu
Well,
is going to kill you. And I get that, we are complicit in that because we're not willing to put pressure on him to stop him. But I'm just looking at it from where everything stands now, and there's nobody in the U.S. that's going to stop the dude. There,
yeah, listen, in an ideal world, like you're saying, well, I will say let's add a hint of pragmatism in there. I don't think that would involve them leaving and being exiled. So basically, what you're saying, right, is that like it's almost mercy to let these people become citizens, like in Jordan or in Israel, or not in Israel, in Egypt or Saudi Arabia, right? Is that what you're
oh
saying?
yeah, and heck, I think even we could, I am against mass migration for a host of reasons, but I mean, just the fact that I think we're, we are complicit in this tragedy. I would be willing to take a huge number of these people, like 500,000 plus. Honestly,
To
like
in
honestly.
America?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Well, that you want to talk about not happening? Not a fucking chance,
oh
son.
yeah.
And
There's
and
not a
I
chance.
and I share your sympathies, and I would gladly take these people in. But the fact is, like, I know who's in power, and I know their lack of sympathy that they have, and there's not a fucking chance that they're gonna let any of these people become American refugees.
Oh yeah, oh
Not
yeah.
a chance. Even though they could definitely claim asylum. Like if they don't meet asylum, who does? You know?
Oh yeah, Oh yeah, they have more of a case for it than probably anyone else on earth. I mean,
I don't really disagree with a lot of what you said in terms of like, would this be mercy to let them go? And because, and I do think Trump has a slight point, which is, hey, why would you want to stay? Um,
yeah.
but ultimately, I think you got to think. I think what would be best is if you let the Palestinians have the choice. If you want to stay and you want to hold to your land, which the majority of them I think will, because you're talking about an ideology where that land is sacred, um, just like
Oh yeah.
the Jewish people of Israel think that that land is sacred to them, and I don't deny that their ideological views are true to them. You're not going to get these people to split from that.
If Jews born in Brooklyn have a right to a state in Palestine, then Palestinians born in Jerusalem have a right to a state in Palestine. Anyone who doesn't agree with that principle, I think, is suspect.
I think most people do.
They do, but but why in that case do we have the one and not the other? After all, it's America that pays for all this and arms the Israelis. And
I think forcing them out is a uniquely bad idea. Essentially, what you're arguing for is the Indian removal in the modern century. Like, it's a horrible idea, and I don't think history will look kindly on it either.
Well,
If Palestinians chose it, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with it, but I don't think that they will, and I think that you don't think that they will either.
yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I have my like ideal set of events that I would like to transpire. I would like us to, you know, I would have liked Trump to have Netanyahu arrested while he was at the podium on live TV and send him to the International Criminal Court or, or something. But, I would like for there to be even just a simulacrum of, you know, Palestinian self determination. But it just feels as though, kind of like I said earlier, like it feels as though Israel has just won. As unfortunate for the Palestinians as it is, and
Well, I mean, I don't deny that, right? I think that my point that I'm saying is that, like, just because they won does, I mean, they're still, let's say that the low number is right, 1.6 million people minimum there. I mean, that's still a ton of people. And
oh
the
yeah,
idea that
oh
you're going
yeah,
to ethnically cleanse that many people is just absurd to me. The idea that, that the American people, I don't think will go for that. Um, I would be totally shocked, especially, some level. If we're going to carry out the operation, there will be some level of press allowed because I'm sure you're aware, but Israel is not allowing press as much as they can anywhere near Gaza because,
oh yeah, yeah.
Israel's like, we will kill you if you're in a building that happens to be anywhere near a Hamas terrorist in the last, 20 years. Like, but if the US is there, they're going to allow footage of this stuff and they're going to allow pictures. And there's not a chance the American people go for it.
Well, I think honestly, funny enough, I think if reporters were allowed in there, I mean, in it, if the American media reported on it, I think Americans would be shocked to find that the Palestinians are in many ways pretty similar. I mean, there's certainly differences, but it's not like they're super different looking. I mean, they certainly have these Levantine, air and also like Arabish qualities to the way they look, and but I mean culturally, they're all very well. Many of them are very well educated. Many Americans would find them kind of relatable. So I mean, in some ways, I feel like if people just had the ability to, I mean, the ability to see it, I think opinions would just change so quick.
Right. Like
And
imagine if similar to COVID, if every single night you turned on the TV and it was COVID numbers, COVID numbers, COVID numbers. Imagine if it was pictures that they had taken that day of the occupation or the removal or the potential removal, I should say. I think that would sway public support dramatically. As a matter of fact, and we'll round off on this before switching to another topic, but support for Israel as a whole has definitely gone down. I'll just rattle off these numbers and then we'll get your take and my take on it. But as far as a percent of people who say Israel has gone too far, that number is up 4%, and that's the biggest category right now.
Oh, wow. What's the total?
What's up?
What's that total then if it's up 4?
Yeah, so 31% of people polled.
In America?
And that was in America.
Oh, wow. That's kind of, honestly, that's really impressive for America. I mean, it's lower than what I want, but I would hope that it would be close to 100. But I mean, but the level that the American public has been propagandized. I mean, you went through the public school system, so I mean, like I did, so
yeah,
I mean, how deep the subversion.
And it's definitely more negative among our generation, like younger people. As a matter of fact, it's almost 50-50 among in terms of like blatantly against what they're doing versus like the mix of undecided, just right and not far enough combines for the other 50.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And every other category is down. The only category that has increased is the gone too far position. The just right position is down 5% to 20%. And then not far enough is down 4%. It's only 12% of Americans think that Israel hasn't gone far enough, which is, I need to meet these people and show them some photographs.